Hello, all. This is that awkward first minute or two when nobody's on yet. Hey, there's some people on already. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Supconnect Live. Thrilled to be here. Thank you, Supconnect, for sponsoring. My name's Kristin Thomas, and very excited to get right to our guest, Jeramie Vaine, who is truly a renaissance man of Sup. I have known him, I think, pretty much the whole decade that he's been stand-up paddling. We've both been around and gotten to some incredible places, but his journey is truly amazing, and I would like to invite him on right now. Just a couple of reminders. We do have a follow-up Facebook page, and we would love you to join us there. Connect Live discussions, and we'll post some pictures and give you links. These do end up on YouTube, so if any friends, hey, weren't able to catch us live, you'll find us there. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Whoop, whoop.
I love that.
You're on.
That's an amazing thing.
Yeah,
so I took your advice and started talking even before people were on.
That's it.
And as you said, the awkward moment as it starts, but nobody's there. So that will be us on Instagram. But I am so excited to talk to you, Jeramie. We really have had a lot of fun adventures, but you... even more. I mean, you've lived in so many places and have had such an amazing journey. And I called you a renaissance man because really in stand-up paddling, I can't think of any type of stand-up paddling, any discipline that you haven't tried and in most really excelled at and are very involved in. Oh, we've got EJ on the line.
Yeah, we got all kinds of people tuning in. This is radical.
This is really fun too because we haven't been able to see each other in person.
Yeah.
So great to catch up in these new ways in these strange times.
It is. It's perfect.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for the kind words. And, obviously honored to be here in this platform. And thank you to Supconnect for hosting this and allowing us to connect and talk story and do all these rad things. So thanks for everybody tuning in because as we talk today briefly, I'm just so excited to be able to share and catch up on all the things that we've actually been a part of and how fun it's been and how so life-changing.
Yeah. And you've been up to a lot lately, so I'm excited to catch up about all of that too. And hey, I always learn something new about even the people I think I know really well. There's always more to know. So we like to always start with, because stand-up paddling is a pretty new recreational activity, sport, whatever you want to call it. And you were in very early, but you also are a water person and have a background. I mean, I think of you as the hockey player from Boston, because I just remember thinking, wow, stand-up paddling can come from anywhere and everywhere, but you have more of a water background. So wakeboarding, and how did that lead to stand-up paddling?
Yeah, so got into wakeboarding young, growing up in a small lake in New England, and just kind of happened to become a passion. And then as I was leaving corporate America back in 2008, I got into competing at the ripe age of 28, which is ironic for wakeboarding, and had this epiphany that I'm going to move to Florida, to the Mecca, and pursue this dream of becoming a professional wakeboarder or work in the industry and teach and coach and all that stuff. Well, that didn't happen. And basically I got a great message from a friend, and he was like, come paddle. I was like, no, I'm good. And he's like, no, come paddle. So I went, and Ned Johnson, Paddleboarding Orlando, brought me out, and I was on the lakes of Winter Park, Florida. Beautiful chain of lakes, amazing body of water. Ned and his team run such a beautiful operation there, and I found myself in the middle of a lake looking around, and I'm like, this is pretty surreal. And it took me a while to get into it, but finally I was like, okay, this is cool. I don't mind touring and teaching, and I really did enjoy the aspect of coaching. It resonated with me deeply, and so I just started teaching right away. Growing up in the water, it was second nature. And Ned was so supportive, and David Rose at the time was there helping out, and him.
Oh yeah, his nephew, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I remember him.
So those are my teachers. Those are the guys that brought me into the sport. And Paddleboard Orlando had such a beautiful following, still does. So that kind of cut my teeth on it, and I did not want to compete. I was burned with wakeboarding, and I'm like, I just want to enjoy the water. And I'll never forget, I was sitting with my roommate, Craig Katilnick, in the pool one day, and I was like, I'm not competing. And they're all like, why don't you just compete? What's the big deal? I'm like, I just don't want to. And Ned brought me this. Yeah, exactly. You know, I was like, I just want to enjoy something.
And let's see, you're about, what, 30 or 32 by then?
Yeah, like maybe 31. So I was like, whatever, I'm retired, you know? I went out to a race Brent Brown threw in this little town called Port St. Lucie, or not Port St. Lucie, I always say it wrong, Ponce Inlet, which is just south of Daytona. And we had a BOP, which I had no idea what that meant. Battle of the Paddle, for those of you that don't know.
Race,
yeah, exactly. So in and out of the surf in a nutshell with a beach run. I was like, wait, you guys are bringing me to do what? So we did.
From the lake boy, right?
Yeah, lake boy, never caught probably 10 waves in his life. You know, learned how to surf, but didn't know how to surf. And went out there and went to this race, and the conditions were dreamy. It was like light offshore, probably waist high, glassy, like summer swell, or weird August. And I'll never forget my first lap. I caught a wave to the beach, right foot forward, and I'm a regular surfer, but because of wakeboarding, I was like, to note. I was like, because of wakeboarding, I was just looking through old photos, laughing. I'm like, I caught my first wave switch, like right foot forward. It was sick on a race board. Yeah. So that hooked, and then we surfed afterwards, and I was like, man, this sport is so amazing.
It keeps getting better, yeah.
Yeah, in the disciplines, right? I had no idea. And so basically that opened my eyes. I ended up racing one more time again in the fall, Chase Kosterlitz through a great race. Water Monkey, that was it. It didn't come in early. Yeah, so that was an amazing crew over there on the west coast of Florida, St. Pete, Clearwater Beach. And that kind of got me into racing. And while that was happening, I started messing around with headstands on a paddleboard. And then right around the same time with Chase's race, I started doing yoga with my guru and my mentor, Timmy Howard, in Orlando, Florida. So that's kind of how it was really crazy. The competitive side in yoga.
How interesting that those kind of, dovetailed. Well, I'm glad that wakeboarding brought you to Florida, therefore introduced you to stand-up paddleboarding. Lucky for all of us in that respect. You pretty early on, besides all the competing and everything, got involved in the industry too, because amongst amazing race experiences, and we'll definitely talk about some of those, we used to see each other at Surf Expo, at trade shows.
Yeah. I did. I jumped in the industry. I mean, I started I was teaching for Netta David, which was radical, and then I got into working at the retail shop. So that was a total different, experience for me. I mean, I grew up working at a retail shop, but, later in life. So that was really fun and, helped. I actually was, ironically, it's called Ski World Orlando. Mike was an amazing guy. I worked with him. And during the wintertime, I was tuning snow skis and snowboards and doing paddleboarding. So it was my roots were shining once again. So it was pretty insane. And then I met Dave and Trish Myler of Boga Paddleboards and basically begged them to hire me. And that's how I fumbled into the industry. I was like, that's awesome. You need me, please. They're like, we're not hiring. I'm like, I know, but.
And you've played many roles in the industry and with some different companies and all, but we were remembering one of our favorite races that is gone now, that's in California, that I believe because of them, because of working with Boga, you made it out to Race the Lake of the Sky.
Yes.
Chris Brackett, bring it back.
Please, I know.
We loved that event.
That race, I mean, that was my first experience. I did the Orange Bowl, which is a great event down in Miami with me. But the Milers were like, hey, you should come out to this race. So they invited me out. I went out to Tahoe. Never been to Tahoe.
I was just going to say, have you been to Tahoe? Because that in itself is worth it. Yeah.
No, and it was just insane.
I brought Chris, Stefan, and Ashley on a road trip to California, and they'd never been in the mountain, whoa. At high altitude.
Just flying out. I remember flying into Sacramento, and obviously I came from Colorado a few years earlier, so I still had that feel for the mountains. I remember flying over, and I just felt this calling. I'm like, I'm gonna live here. I need this place. And we spent some time in the foothills where we were in Nevada City, and that was just amazing. And then we went over to Tahoe, spent a week, and Chris, the Brackett family, put on such an amazing race. The community aspect, and we talk about community a lot. I agree.
We
do, and it was the epitome of it, and just everybody. I remember sitting in the beer tent with EJ of all people. You know what I mean? Like that to me, I think that's where you and I first crossed paths.
One of the pictures, we all have umbrella hats on for some reasons. EJ, do you remember that?
That was a great one. I mean, we were sitting there, and oh gosh, and the weather was amazing, and you know, that whole camaraderie. That was my first time. We're racing 12.6. That's how long ago the industry was. I mean, AV and Anthony Vella and I had, obviously he was an idol. I looked up to him like, this guy AV, oh my God. I'm standing on the start line next to him, like nervous. And we went off and raced, and it was the 14 miler. And of course, I just came from minus sea level in Florida, come out to 6,200 feet. And everybody's like, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. I'm like, okay. So AV and I, drafted each other. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is reality. This is real life. And I had hair down the bit of my back, and AV was such a gentleman and coach and just a great person to be around, and we had an amazing time together. So it was just a super experience to come into the industry. I mean, that was my first like welcome to California, you know, and that kind of paved my way. And
of course the Brackett family putting it on, but that venue was amazing, being in kind of that horseshoe. And then they had such a great range of races over 2 days, having that really long distance to this beautiful, iconic island, having that Supcross, where he and his kids had built that start gate where we all started out of. I'm not really a sprinter, and I'm pretty old, but I thought that was super fun.
It was. We raced 10.6 Rivies.
Yeah, Riviera sponsored, and you got to just grab a Rivy and not your own. Worry about bumping your own race.
And the kids always mix it up because, you know, like, I remember watching like the kids giving Danny Ching a run for his money. It was just a riot to be able to be that in the brackets. And then Chris put on such a technical race, a buoy turns, which was fun. Mm-hmm. And then with
some innovations. Remember when the crowd got really big, you could choose which buoy you're going to do a first turn, and then the rest of the race was the same. But I thought that was an interesting way to do that. But those were some of the most crowded buoy turns. That first turn, even split in half. To go on the inside, everybody just sort of moved you around. It was like you were in a school of fish, and it just got pushed.
It was, and everybody like go by talking, and you're doing great. Oh, hey, he's coming up behind you. She's coming up behind you. And it was just such a neat thing. And the other great thing about that race was his Wednesday night race league. I mean, Chris pioneered a lot of things. He kicked off the race league, which, you know, as some of you heard me talk about down here in Jupiter, Florida, Blue Line runs one now and has been doing it, and it's, you know, gets 30 to 50 people, but, you know,
Jessica Citra has one over your way too.
Yeah.
She had those Tuesday night, and I've sometimes got to Surf Expo early because she'd usually plan one to do that. And we've had Thirsty Thursdays and Wet Wednesdays, and it's fun.
So, I mean, here it is, 2012, and Chris is breaking out all these things. And I mean, remember by 2015, I was on a road trip with Kelly Margetts and Sarah Callahan, and we showed up to that event, and it was like top 15 paddlers in the world. And Chris gave no money. He's like, nope, no prize purse. Everybody comes, pays the same. And we were all just so giddy to be there. And, you know, and I remember his race league, I think, had 100 people on Wednesday night.
They'd come up, I think, from Sacramento. And said,
we had everywhere. I mean, people were coming up because of it was 4th of July weekend, which who would ever thought have a race that time? But Chris was like, this is what we're doing, and people would come for the week. Yeah.
As you said, like, it's more than just like Sup race, it's community and the whole thing. And another one that comes to mind that was a great adventure for me, and you lived there for a while, is St. Croix and the Coconut Cup. And then our buddies, Bill Kraft and Isabel Picard, who are awesome. And it's two sides, not a big island, but those two sides were very different. But that for me was a revelation. I think it's because I last minute decided to just, you know what, I'm not going to mess with race sport. I'm going to bring an inflatable.
Yeah.
And it worked fine. There were 3 different races over 2 days, but
The Coconut Cup was that whole area, the islands, you know, Bill and Isabel are just special people. They've been in the industry forever. I mean, Isabel, professional kiteboarder and windsurfer. She's a rocking paddler, amazing artist, you know, and, you know, she does so much in that world, just so talented and creative. And then Bill is, you know, we always joke here, like my good buddy AJ calls him, you know, the Laird of the Caribbean, because Bill could do anything. You know, he tows into waves on a foil. he surfs big waves on a regular paddle or a regular surfboard, paddleboard. He could race, boost huge airs on a kiteboard, and so those guys were just so special to be around. And that event, the Coconut Cup, was always good fun. Sadly, that the hurricane messed up that side of the island, and so the surf shop no longer is there, and that whole area kind of got pretty beat up. But that event was so insane, and I mean, even the other ones that, like the Puerto Rican community is, they kind of picked up where they left off, and that whole community, that camaraderie. When you went over there, if you forgot your paddle, your fin, your board, everybody was like, "Okay, I'll get you something."
Such community, yeah. Have you been to the Rincon end? I haven't yet. I want to. Yeah.
Rincon Beach Boy was it's a special one. I think I've done it 3 or 4 times. And then my good friends ran one down in Ponce. Escape to Coffin Island. Actually, Heather Boss was originally started it, and then my good buddy Jan Karata took it over, and they did it at Ponce Yacht Club. So
great. And then we had Paddle Royale for a while. That was
Paddle Royale,
a couple great days. So Puerto Rico's great, and Painkiller Cup also down in the islands. So
the BVI. Andy does a great job. That's that 3-person team relay. For those of you that don't know, it's got a really unique rule where you have to have 2 guys and 1 girl. Well, actually, you just have to have 1 girl minimum, 1 14-foot race board, and 1 boat. And then it's a relay, and you switch every 25 minutes. So that's always been fun.
And that's how I got there, because of that team rule. Because there were 2 French gentlemen from Guadeloupe who were looking for a female team partner.
That's awesome.
No idea who they were getting, but hey, we were in the top 5. That one did have money on it too.
It did, yes. And I mean, she was paddling that place, and the downwinder, and just seeing. I remember just being out there in the blue water, like it's almost surreal. You're like, this is real life.
Yeah. Pinch me, I'm doing this.
Right.
And this is hard work. Maybe not.
But there's a painkiller at the end.
Yeah. The real thing, the real bar.
Yes, exactly.
So let's get back to Sup yoga. So you started practicing yoga in Florida. And did the paddleboard yoga thing just kind of emerge right from that, and then becoming an instructor? And I mean, you really are a leader in the Sup yoga, and one of the few males.
Well, thank you for saying that. Yeah, so it became such a special thing when I lost wakeboarding. Like, I wasn't really into surfing at that time. It's to New Smyrna Beach was a bit of a drive, so I needed something to kind of give me that flow feeling. And I remember Robbie Walsh was one of the instructors there, and I read his bio, and he's like, I seek to the yoga mat to experience that freedom and float that surfing provided me. I was like, wow, I'm hooked. And I went there and learned how to do arm balances and the creative side for me. But I never really got into teaching Sup yoga. And then I would mess around, do headstands and poses. I remember asking Timmy one day, I'm like, can I teach Sup yoga? She's like, Jeramie, there's more than 1 branch and 1 limb in the practice of yoga. And I was like, okay, fair enough. So a few years later, a really good friend, her married name is Lacey Shelton, introduced me to, she was teaching at Core Power Yoga, and her and her husband Brian just moved up to Petaluma. But Lacey's like, come to Core Power and take your teacher training. This was 2013. And I was like, I don't know. And I couldn't. And Dave and Trish were super supportive. And they're like, hey, we're going to help you do this. And so I went and got my yoga teacher training, $200 from Core Power Yoga. And it was awesome. And ironically, it fell in. I was helping Wanderlust just with the setup and organization. I built the floating studios. I bring the boards from Boga. So, there was a industry role in there, and obviously a passion. I'd love to go and do the yoga and see the music. And they were short on instructors, and they're like, listen, would you teach? And I was like, yeah, no problem. And didn't even think about how amazing of an opportunity it was. So my first teaching gig was at Wanderlust.
Yeah. But you already were a coach and a teacher in many areas, so it was comfortable for you to step into it. That's good you didn't think too long and hard about what a great opportunity or get nervous about it.
And the ironic part is Sup yoga has always been like that. For whatever reason, I think it's the combination of being on the water. Like you said, I've been coaching wakeboarding since I was 17 years old. So the water is second nature to me. And to be able to add yoga into it, it just was such a grounding experience. So I was super great. Yeah, Katie.
Vermont.
Yeah, that's it. Wanderlust, Vermont. It was actually it. And so that experience was really just paved the way to getting me into Sup Yoga and broadening my horizons and just the experience itself. So I'm still grateful for it. I love practicing yoga on the water. The studio is an amazing place, but the water just is so different.
Yeah.
And to this day, Timmy's always like, "You're a better yogi on the water than you are on land, anyways." So.
Yeah. Well, I randomly participated in a little yoga, and I just practiced yoga. I'm not a yoga instructor or anything, but it was you could win a free. We were trying to win a board for a friend, but it was Namaste Sup, who brings a lot of you together, and you're part of that. And it was fun. I so appreciated your, encouragement and advice, because I avoided yoga. I was one of those for a long time, mainly because I'm not flexible. So I thought it's not for me because I'm not, which is absolutely the opposite. And, there's many things that yoga offers, but the stretching is something that I needed. But it's interesting that you were very much about adapting and making it work for whoever you are, that it is for everyone. And it's not just for those who are super bendy, even though it's fun to see what people can do.
It is, and I love that challenge. I'm so glad to see you guys. I know Maggie joined. There's a bunch of you ladies that all joined.
Maggie's the one who told me about it, yeah.
Yeah, and, to me, that's been the biggest thing we see. Of course, social media is great, but then also we have this, outlook. We're like, oh, well, I can't do that. And I'm like, listen, I'm a guy. I'm not super flexible. Thanks to my yoga practice, I'm more and more flexible every day, but that whole thing is, this is our practice, and that's the beauty of it. That's the thing that I've always been driven home to, is this is our practice. So if you want to sit in child's pose and just breathe, awesome. Like, no one's going to be like, that's not right, get out of my class. Like, perfect. Like, I don't know what your day was like. If you want to tell me, I might understand better, but this is all about your practice. And so, everybody has this little thing, and the more we can encourage people to come to the mat and get there, the more they'll try, and the more the pose. Their flexibility will increase, and their strength will increase, and they'll break down that wall of fear. So,
well, and from the industry side too, Sup Yoga has been so interesting, because people really thought, what is this at the beginning? And this has to be just a fad. But it wasn't, and it isn't, and it continues to grow. And there's such an amazing network, I think, of people. But it brings, what I think is extra special, is it brings people who weren't water people necessarily to the water, who want a new way to practice. And therefore, they might actually really love the stand-up paddling in other respects, or grow into doing other parts of stand-up paddling, or get the board for that reason. So it's a lot of us who were the early adopters were really water people already, and already just had this addiction to all things water. But I think it's neat that yoga brings even more people to the water.
Your point is so well received, because at Wanderlust especially, I've met more people scared, really, really scared to come down to the lake. But it has been one of the easiest way to introduce people to yoga and paddling. And it has been really eye-opening. Like, ask people, like, have you ever done yoga before? And mostly, there's a lot of males. They're like, no. I'm like, okay, so have you ever been paddled before? No. And then all of a sudden, we're like, boom, let's do this.
Let's do them both.
Yeah, and then they leave so empowered. The word stoked is obviously what comes to mind, but they also leave super empowered and very, very excited, now willing to try paddling and to try yoga on their own. So it's, you're so spot on with that. And what obviously a lot more women that are involved in the Sup Yoga community, but they introduce so many people to the sport, and the numbers keep growing, and the participation, and that's what we all want to see, from an industry perspective. The more people that paddle, obviously it excites you and I, because we love sharing our passion, but it's so great for the sport. We can get more people out there on the water and enjoying it, and it helps innovation, and it helps events, and so on and so forth. So it's a great thing.
All different aspects. Bill just signed on. Hey, we already talked about you guys. You're going to have to go watch it again.
Yeah, William.
William. I love that. Hey, we have a question that came up. Chris wants to know if stand-up paddleboarding is fun to go fishing off of. And please enlighten us on the many reasons why. I figure this is somebody who already does sup fish.
I think it might be somebody that you already mentioned in the earlier version of talking about Racing League in the Sky. So Chris, awesome question. I'll give him a shout out. It's Chris Stevens. Ironically, we reconnected. He is one of the OGs of racing when I first got into it. He was on the the Sup Love Stingray, and it was charging the 14-foot class, pioneering the 14-foot class. And Chris went a different direction for a bit, and then we reconnected through fishing and had a blast. So yes, fishing on a paddleboard has, for me personally, it's another discipline that fell into my world. Growing up on a lake, I love fishing. And actually, it was through Ken Hovey and
Yes.
yeah, and then our good buddy Chris up in the northern part of Northern California. And so between the two of those guys, they introduced me. They said, keep going out. Chris Hollinsworth, I keep forgetting his last name. Yeah. And so they said, go fishing, just do it. And so I started. And then I got hooked. So I started on a race board and then got into other boards. But, fishing on a paddleboard, typically the general rule I tell everybody is paddle on something about 32 inches wide, 10 feet or longer. And, whether you go in the ocean or the lakes, it's just a great way to get out there. My favorite is to go in the lakes that don't allow motorized crafts. But yeah, it's been so good. It's so neat to be one-on-one with nature.
I'm excited because I haven't done a lot of sup fishing, and I'm fired up because I'm going this weekend on a sup camping river trip, floating, and my dad rigged up a couple trout, which is his specialty, but he's a mountain fisherman. Got the poles all rigged up and in the van and ready to take off tomorrow morning.
And that's the beauty. Yeah, fishing. Like, who'd have thought, right? It's like the yoga, all these aspects that started, infiltrate into the sport because they're both so mellow and it just allows access for everybody. So you don't need a lot of expensive craft. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, really works in a lot of different ways. Yeah. Well, you think we've already talked about you really lived and moved around, right? Florida, California. I didn't realize. I think you just said Colorado. You're from Massachusetts or spent time there. I don't know if that's where you grew up. You've taught me words, so I assume you're a Bostonian, like masshole, which you are not. But you try to claim it sometimes. And wicked, love that. Love that word.
Yeah.
But wicked, where else have you lived in your young life? You are young still.
Yeah, well, thank you. So in the SUP where I started in Orlando, I basically lived in Charleston, South Carolina. I lived in Denver, Colorado. And I lived in the mountains, a little town called Idaho Springs. And then I went over to Orlando, Florida. Then I lived in Northern California, San Clemente.
Yeah. Sano. We all miss Sano. You need to come out and surf.
I know. I miss San Clemente. I missed San Clemente so much. And nomads and amazing food, poke bowls, and all the good stuff. And then from there, I ended up St. Croix. Bill and Isabel took me under their wings for a bit, which was awesome. And then I just my folks have been in the same place all my life on the lake, little small lake in Massachusetts. And then I had AJ, who's a dear friend of Bill, and that's how I got connected to those guys down here in Jupiter. Was like, dude, come on down to Jupiter, and I truly love it down here. So that's it. Jupiter, Florida was the last one. So it's
that's quite a few places. Well, your journey has taken you a lot of places physically, and it's taken you on to all these different aspects of stuff. But it's really, I'm excited to be watching you really grow and go some new directions lately. You want to talk a little bit about what you're doing? Your coaching has really expanded, not just about sport and athlete, or not just about the physicality part of it, but beyond that.
Yeah, AJ, not AJ. EJ just called me a masshole, so I would take that as a
Sorry,
compliment.
I should have even brought that up. I know, and Anthony Scaturo from SIC just said, watch it.
Yes.
Okay, I'll watch it.
No, if you know masshole.
Am I not supposed to say that word?
No way, it's perfect. That's what it is. I'm proud of it. I wear it like a tattoo, it's a badge of honor. So the coaching thing, and it's my whole platform now, is since I entered in this industry, I've had so many great people to work with. I started with Trisha Davenport, Boga, paved the way, introduced me to so many different disciplines, worked with the guys who were at Surf Tech and NSP. And I never could explain to anybody what I did, and you and I even chat about it. Like, as a team manager, well, that's great, but I didn't just manage athletes. I did a lot more than things. And a lot of it was, from my side, was content creation. Like I became a storyteller for my own brand, for our brands, for the brands, for the industry. And I started to write, which I never did. I love to write now, so a lot of that aspect kind of blossomed into it. And as a coach, I've been coaching, like I said, since I was 17. I've coached hockey teams, I've run wakeboard schools, built camps, all that good stuff. And then as I, came into this wanderlust stuff, and I was doing clinics and paddling and all that, which was radical. But I started to realize, like, I'm not a technique person, I'm only 5'4" and I'm 108 pounds, so I'm built a lot differently than most people. So I use a lot of my body in a unique way. So I couldn't wrap my head around. And there's so many great coaches out there that teach the physical aspect. I was like, what I can teach is the overcoming parts, the inspiration, the place when you get to that, what we call the pain cave, getting through it, or that block, like whether you're a business that's been doing the same thing for so much and, all of a sudden you're like, how can I grow? How can I do more? Like, and that's where I like try to inspire. So one of my biggest things is I inspire to inspire you. And we do that through finding that peace, because everybody has something inside of them, like you're a mom, you raise kids, like that's so magical, but you put it into that little jar and you don't take it out for that empowering piece. So when you can take that out and apply it to your life, and all of a sudden you're like, man, I do some pretty heavy things. Some people drive to work and, obviously now it's a little different, but people drive 90 minutes on the 405 or the 5 or 95, wherever it may be. And they suffer through that horrible commute because it's what they need to do. And they forget that strength lives on inside. So what I try to do is teach people that they have the strength to do whatever they need to do. So if you're an athlete and you train every day and you go to the gym and you just can't crack it in, like, what are we going to find? We're going to find what's holding you back. Same thing, business. You've been in the business world for 30 years, but all of a sudden things are plateaued. Yeah, it's Amazon. Yeah, it's this, but now what is it? What's stopping us back? So finding that whole piece, and, on a personal development side, I went through it. I hired a coach. Alex was amazing and taught me so much. And so I wanted to be able to share that with people and just inspire people to just do what lives inside them, and to look at fear and all these obstacles and be like, no, we don't have to, because that's how I got into this position,
Well, I love that. And you're inspirational, and you've had so much of the background on so many sides to do just what you're doing. I just love watching your journey and watch that expand. But we have to go back old school. Brennan Rose just said hi. John Hadley. We got some. I do feel like we're going back in time. And I don't know if EJ's still on it, but one of the pictures I dug up was you two standing after. It was maybe 2012 or 13 WPA championships were in Lake Las Vegas.
Yes.
And they bussed us, which is just like an epic part of that whole weekend. I mean, that's what I was always looking for. The destination weekends that had a race in there. And great
Hennessy's.
People. Yep, and Hennessy sponsored it, and they had
old school
right on. I forget the name of the old part of Las Vegas,
yeah.
that strip. Yeah, but there were some lovely, very tall ladies with fancy outfits on, standing with you. And I remember one. I have to rat on Fernando. He won money in the relay, and
yes.
Jimmy Terrell had told him to bet it on roulette, and my husband Scott was there trying to talk him out of it, like, no, the odds aren't good. Play another game with it. But he had to put his relay winnings down, and he did not win. But that was, again, just one of those many. Now, I'm just thinking of the ones that I've been at the same place as you, but you've been to, I think, even more places. Are there any other? We talked about the islands and some of the California and Florida. I'm catching you off guard, but any others? The whole East Coast thing. I mean, you guys had kind of some leagues. Remember, was it Will Schmidt? What was Will's last name? I remember he came out to California and he was telling us all about like these leagues that were going on in the whole East Coast. Whoops, just lost you.
Yeah, there is one that I truly love, and actually Ken Hovey and Annabelle Anderson both said we're trying to like get this thing back, and they talked to Greg Panis about it, is the Pyatt River Games. And just like Race of Lake of the Sky, Pyatt River Games became
epic.
It was I always forget the guy's name that ran it. He was such a legend, and I've never been treated in anything that I've ever been involved with as an athlete, from playing collegiate puck all the way down, wakeboarding, anything, like from a straight athlete. the way that guy treated us was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the amount of fun we all had watching each other get busted off going down this 1.5 minute river
Learning
run.
to do whitewater, yeah.
Yeah, and
but it was such a fun coming together too, the community. But yeah,
radical.
I mean, didn't we have organic food fed to us the entire 3
Local.
days?
It was brought in every day.
Yeah. The hot tub, did you ever get to sit in that was up above to watch the races?
I don't know if
it was
I
up by the
that.
announcer's stand. They had a hot tub set up there.
Oh my gosh.
They had free camping. I hitched a ride with my buddy Eric Diggins, and then I got to bring he had a trailer, so I had a bike and my tent, and I was in the free campground and a little bike, and we did log rolling, hatchet throwing.
There was
volleyball going on over there. That was just so much fun. But the whitewater itself was just an amazing. There's just so many pieces of that were so amazing. I'm with you.
It was.
Yeah.
And it was such a special event, and like I said, I know Hobie was talking about trying to bring it back. And so I know AJ just posted up Chattajack. I mean, Chattajack is another one of those races.
Yeah.
And I was never going to do it. And last year, I came back here, and I was training pretty heavy on my paddleboard, and I just, it kind of got in that competition funk again. I'm like, I don't really want to compete. I just want to enjoy it. And, for me, it's all about the camaraderie and having a few, like men's league hockey. I like having a few beers with the boys and girls. And AJ, it was the funniest thing ever. I came here, and I'm like, I'm not going to do it on my stand-up. And he's like, do it on your prone. And I'm like, okay. And this was 30 days before. And
sorry about that.
You're
incoming. Good. I thought I blocked that.
No worries. And I'm like, whatever. I'm like, you think I can do this? He's like, 100%. So about 100 Modelos later, I'm like, I'm doing it on a prone. And Joe Bark, the legend.
Yep, he shows up at that. Yeah.
Made it happen. And
right.
It was just unbelievable to be able to go ahead and paddle that event. And that was my second time being there. But Chattajack is a special one. I know we were kind of...
It is so well run, such amazing community. I did it once also, and I'm also not, I don't consider myself I consider that ultra distance. I know people are doing now 100-mile ones, but to me that's ultra distance paddling for 6 to 8 hours.
Yeah.
But it was so worth it. And it's amazing. And they've built some really awesome things into it, like that belt buckle thing.
Yeah.
5 times in a row to get your belt buckle, and a whole bunch of people have done that.
Lots of people. People going on their second.
People coming out, like David Rush has done it on, I think, not only 5 times, but on 5 different watercraft.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah.
It is. And that community, and I remember last year paddling on my prone board. Granted, that was, for me, that's a different perspective to see it. And I just remember being so inspired by people going by. You know what I mean? Not your typical faces you see at race. Just everyday people that were so stoked to be there and cheering and, hey, how you doing? Do you need any food? It was the epitome. So that race is definitely one that has very similar Race of Lake of the Sky type vibe. The races back here on the East Coast, because I spent so much time in California, when I was in Florida, there was 1 million races in Florida back in the day. And honestly, all of them had cash. It was kind of ironic. I was talking with Matty Arnsman of Blue Line the other day, and we were just chuckling about how much money was thrown around to the local races in Florida. And, they had such a great, I remember there was one on the Gulf side that was sponsored by Pacifico. There's just so many. Those St. Simon Islands had one. Davis Love the Third. I got to meet him at a paddleboard race, of all things. Go on a surf session with him. There was just such a surreal opportunities in the sport back then, and I think everybody was just hosting a race. Actually, another one of my favorites is Annapolis, the Bay Bridge paddle.
I've heard great things about that.
Yeah, that's a great one up there. It's a gnarly one. It's 8 miles underneath the bridge. But the beautiful part is, Annapolis is a waterway. It's known for water people, right? And they shut down the main throughway for boats. Really? So helicopter guided, full on, and it's a window. You have an hour to get there, but so that's a very special one. New Jersey, Rich runs a great one up there in Point Pleasant Beach. Really, really enjoyed that one. Paddle for Plumber up on the North Shore. Yeah, the boys' home. Leah and those guys all put it together really, really well. a race that I haven't done because of Wanderlust, but I'm so excited to do it is it's Paddle for the Lakes. I know Tommy Boudet goes to it a lot, but Russ Scully of Wind and Waves.
Is it in Canada or?
It's in Vermont, Burlington, Vermont, on
Vermont.
Lake Champlain. So another beautiful big body of water to paddle on, Lake Tahoe. And, you know, Russ, and I know Chuck Patterson shows up and does a lot with it. I think Ben Gravy might be involved because the relationship that Russ has created. So there's a surf club on Lake Champlain, which is probably 200 miles from the ocean, you know, in Vermont.
Love that. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So they have windsurfing and everything, but, you know, that's another great lake. I know some of the stuff in the Midwest. Went through a few of them back, and it's been a long time, but I'm really trying to get back into that market because there's such a good group of people there paddling. And I'll never forget, I went on a trip with Werner to Sheboygan, Wisconsin, and it blew my mind with what the Midwest, like full-on surf community in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of those Midwest surf videos and stuff. Yes. I mean, when they got some storm waves, they're legit. You can surf them.
It's gnarly cold, like.
Yeah.
I surfed my first.
Impressive.
It is. This winter, I went out and surfed like traditional prone surfed in January with my 5'4" hoodie, 7mm boots, and I duck dived 3 waves, and I couldn't stop the ice cream headache.
Mm.
And I'm like, I'm looking around. There's 50 people in the water, stoked. I'm like, you guys are diehards. This is insane. I'm like, my warm blood can't handle this. I was like, cheers on you. But so it just shows you like that.
Yeah.
The sport is so beautiful, and people are just willing to get in the water no matter what it takes. So
it is, yeah.
I love it.
So even in these strange times where we can't really connect physically, and a lot of races are getting canceled, the race season is in question because of all that's happening. But a lot of virtual races have popped up. I don't know if you've been kind of paying attention, but I'm having a lot of fun with that because I want to stay in shape, and I always like a little carrot dangling out. But I saw Maggie had jumped on. Like, for instance, she's doing a 5K, not this Saturday, but the next, as a fundraiser and about mental illness and something that's actually super important right now. I mean, I know you're working with like, because those people during this time are really, who are already dealing with issues, are at super high risk. They're not really talking about that right now because we have so much else to talk about health-wise, but I've heard some kind of sad statistics about what happens. There's Maggie, blue paddles up, whoop, whoop.
Yeah, and I love that Maggie's doing that. And the virtual racing thing is just super special. You know, I think it's an awesome avenue. I think it's changing the landscape of the sport. It's allowing people to have fun in a unique manner. It's keeping their costs down, you know, so when racing does come back, you know, people will be more willing to embrace the camaraderie, which is what this is all about. So I thought it
was great. Like Paddle Monster and Sup Racer got together and created a league that they're going to keep going. And so that leaderboard's just a kick. And it's really like there's a whole competition going on between Thomas Boudet and Larry and Andre. I don't know if you've met him in Russia.
Yes.
But that you can have that all over the world because you can't get to everything. And our sport has a way to go to be completely organized so all the same people aren't getting to all the same places. And you can't always be there. But this is a way they've got a 5K and a 2K so far. And you can submit as many times as you want. And like Maggie's is great because it's free if you want to just do it, but it's also a fundraiser for not, I don't know if it's pronounced NAMI, but a mental health organization, nonprofit that you can raise money for. What a great way to get the word out and also raise some money.
Yeah, you know, and that mental health is super, super important to me and something I talk a lot about because actually the person that exposed me to it was Sonny Garcia. You know, I met him at Foundation Fitness when I was training at the gym there. And, you know, Bradley Joy introduced me to Ryan, and Ryan runs an amazing gym in San Clemente, and Delt PE, they call it, which is super was. And, you know, Chuck and Giorgio and Izzy Gomez were all changing there. So
Rob Rojas.
Yes. I mean, the list goes on. And, you know, I got to meet Sonny, and then Sonny was so open about his battle with depression and anxiety, and I was like, man, if this strong individual can talk openly about this, and then of course he had a horrific accident about it, but you know, I think there's never it's always going to be not shunned is not the right word, but it's always going to be kind of darkened no matter what's going on in life, right? And so it's now more than ever, and people being at home and their confines don't really have that outlet, you know, and they're like, what is this thing going on in my mind that's making me not feel the same? And, you know, I'll never forget, I had a few like panic attacks, you know, and didn't know what it was. And now looking into it, so like being able to raise awareness and money for it and just talk about, hey, it's okay to feel that way. And like, this is what you can do. It's beautiful. So good on you, Maggie. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and breaking down those barriers. Well, we need to wrap it up pretty quickly, but we do need to we hope everybody's staying safe and sane. How is it in, I know, I think you probably know a little bit about because you've been a little farther north. Right now you're in Florida. You're getting on the water?
Yeah, here, I've been fortunate where even when I was back in Massachusetts, I had lake access, so that was never an issue. My trails, I was hiking a lot, and the trails got just very popular, which was awesome. But for me, when I go to the mountains, I don't like to be around people. I like bring my pups and run away. But it was great to see people out in the outdoors. Massachusetts, the Northeast is really hit with this thing, you know. So the cities, New York City and Boston, were inundated. So, you know, my heart goes out, and my mom is on the front line. I have my sister and my mom. I have so many dear friends that are nurse and medical people. So it was super, you know, scary and watching these people just pour their lives on the line for us all. And, you know, the AJ gave me a call and was like, hey, things are a little different down here if you want to come down. And I mapped out a trip and packed my car up, and I was like, well, if they're okay with it, I'm going to come down. My folks are cool. They're good. So left the pups with mom and dad and drove down here. And it was the crazy, I tell everybody this, I've never done this in my life. I went nonstop from Massachusetts to Florida, and then I actually did 80 miles an hour across through New York City on the George Washington Bridge.
Really?
At 7 a.m. on a Monday morning. Like, that's how it goes. It was eerie. I was like,
it's never going to happen again, probably.
Yeah. So that, and then Florida down here, it's, you know, we have space in Florida where I'm at. I'm not in a metropolitan, so we actually had a really good, you know, open. The beaches just opened on Monday, so it's not like it was free for all here. So I just had a few places to paddle and do some things at. So, but they went through some pretty tough times. Boat ramps are closed. Yeah. So,
well, what a life you've lived in just the decade I've known you, Jeramie. And it's so fun to talk story. And we could do that all day, especially all the fun events that we've been to. But so neat that you've been involved in so many aspects of stand-up paddling. So thanks for sharing with us today. And just a reminder, everybody, that there's a Facebook group, Supconnect Live Discussions. And we'd love you to join us there. We're going to post some pictures and any links to anything that you're working on and how to get in contact with you and your coaching, and wish you the very best of luck with everything that's going on. And hopefully we'll see each other soon, right?
Yeah, you know, thank you guys all for tuning in. Sorry if we missed some of the comments. We were getting all chatty here. Casey and I love to talk story. But yeah, please, I'm an open book. If you guys have any questions, you know, shoot me a message through any of the social media forums. I'm so grateful for the people at Supconnect for putting this together. It's been really awesome to see all the people sharing their stories on it. So thank you guys so much. And if you want to race right now, Jupiter, Florida, Blue Line is actually being allowed to host their Tuesday night race league. So next Tuesday, we're all going to get together in a socially acceptable format and paddle our 5-mile course and 2-mile course down here in Jupiter, Florida. So it's our closest way to race.
Awesome. Join them if you're there. I would.
Yeah, that's it.
Take care.
Thank you,
safe,
guys.
everyone, and have fun and enjoy where you are. And we'll be back on the water soon if you're not yet. Take care.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.